All right, we'll begin.
Yeah, sorry.
No, that's okay. We'll call the meeting to order. And we'll have a roll.
Here.
Mrs. Grant.
Here.
Mr. Paloma.
Here.
Mrs. Salee. Here. Mrs. Smith.
Yes, here.
Door. Feeling better.
Oh, hold on. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Edwards, is there a second? By Dora. Go ahead and roll, please.
Mr. Edwards.
Yes.
Mrs. Grant.
Yes.
Mr. Paloma.
Yes.
Mrs. Salee. Yes. Mrs. Smith.
Yes. Then we received the minutes of the regular board meeting for August 7th. Is there a motion to approve those minutes? Moved by Israel, second by Kent. Were there any corrections or additions?
So the minutes. Yeah, actually, if you look at them, they say for the financial report and payment of bills, I had changed it to August, but I remembered it should be the previous month, so on mine, the copy that'll be signed,
Okay,
it hasn't changed back to July.
okay, very good.
No problem.
We'll have the roll with that, those corrections.
Mr. Paloma.
Yes.
Mr. Edwards.
Yes.
Mrs. Grant.
Yes.
Mrs. Salee.
Yes.
Mrs. Smith.
Yes. All right, we'll turn to Steve for the sponsors report.
Yes, everybody, well, thank you for filling out your disclosure statements and your conflict of interest forms. If I can get that from you this evening, that'd be great. They are due September 30th. Now, keep in mind, that's when the dates need to be signed and everything. We won't upload that. I'll actually upload it this month, but I won't submit that upload until the spring of the year. So if you could fill that out, that'd be great. Also, had a productive monthly meeting last, this month, but a few weeks ago. Feel like everything is certainly moving in the right direction. All arrows are together pointing in the same direction, which is truthfully probably the first time I felt that way in some time. And I think that's because of the communication that Townsend and Ryan is having with us. So that is great. We will be uploading the annual budget, I believe it is, right, Kelsey?
Yes.
So Diane and Kelsey are working on that. And the annual report will also be needing change, tweet, and upload as well. That's coming. And Ryan, I'll be giving you that because we'll just need that, you know, those statistics for what is last whole year.
Send it out to all students.
Yes, we'll need to send that out too. But I believe that deadline is somewhere in November. So around Thanksgiving. So we have quite a bit of time to get that. The first site visit, which will include basically Ed and I questioning, inquiring of 2 administrators, 2 students, 2 instructors, and then a list of other things such as, you know, what's going on with the vision hearing, proof of residency forms, and so forth. That will be occurring on November 1st, right and early, 8 a.m. So I can get that done and get back over when our students come in at 10 a.m. Other than that, I don't know of anything else there is to share. So any questions?
Just you want to report, Steve, on the movement for the corrected action plan that we.
Well, I emailed him after our last meeting, and he is wanting to set up some time to meet. Quite honestly, everybody, I don't have assistant principal is getting after me pretty good. So I don't have that time right now, but I think what's going to occur is I think that meeting's going to take place with Aaron and Ed and Diane. But I'm trying to wiggle some room there. It's just the problem is, you know, we've had some pretty good changes happening over there which is all for the better, such as an 8-period day and so forth, but it has been busy. So he emailed back wanting some time to meet, but I'm gonna get those minutes from Kelsey. We need to reach out to the minutes, and hopefully, everything is good. We believe that everything is good based on what you guys have given us over the last few months. We will find out from our council. Hopefully, we can.
Are there any other questions? Steve? All right, we'll move on to the reports that we have. Under President's Report, I just wanted to let everybody know that I was present for the start of school and addressed the staff briefly. We had a wonderful beginning of the school year and our attendance has been good. I know Ryan's going to talk more about that. Kent wasn't able to attend the sponsor meeting, so I did attend that on September 9th. And Ryan and I have been communicating on a regular basis. Things are going on, so I think things are going well. Under Legislative Report, one of the things I wanted to just clarify, so that we can fix it if needed, is everyone getting the OSBA legislative emails? Jackie, are you getting those as well? Okay, very good. Because that has regular legislative updates. The only thing I really wanted to mention was, I know Ryan had informed us all that Governor DeWine had sent information or discussion about COVID, that COVID kits are now available through the Ohio Department of Education, so our school nurse or our family liaisons can request those if need be. And probably the only other thing that's going on that I see as significant is that they're having hearings on whether related service individuals who work with special education kids will be able to continue providing telehealth services. And that's something that we do via Zoom. I know Israel's wife is involved in that too. I think professionally, all of us are hoping that that will be able to continue because it has made it simpler in terms of transportation for those students where it's possible. So I'm hoping, and I know Townsend has been engaged in those kinds of services as well. So I hope that will be able to continue. I have nothing further. Jackie, did you have anything new to report? Okay. Israel?
I think Ryan's got quite a bit for personnel.
Okay,
I will leave that to Ryan.
Okay, Ryan, would you want that to be part of your report?
That's fine. We can also briefly discuss that we are considering maybe adding a position, part-time position to monitor our front door and also do COVID screening kind of to make sure that people walk in are feeling well and being able to present them with a mask when they come in as an option, which can also help us to monitor traffic coming in and out and help us to really be accountable for those students coming in, whether it's by bus or by car. And it would be a part-time position, something that I'd like to consider for possibly next month's board meeting.
Very good. Dora?
I spoke with Ryan, but Ryan said so.
One big thing that we had, it was actually today, we had a professional development day with staff. We did CPI training, which is crisis prevention training, with Robin Welch, who led the training. It was very good. She did a great job in her presentation. The staff was very interactive. And in the past, we had done TCIS training, which is another crisis training, crisis prevention training, but this is slightly different, but along the same lines. It's very beneficial for our staff so that we can be very cognizant of the way that we approach our students to either, when you approach a situation, you can either make it worse or you can diffuse it. We want to be able to diffuse those elevated situations so that we can best service our students. That's one big thing that we get going on. recently, at the beginning of the school year, we also had some professional development on final forms and Dazzle. As part of our in-service days, staff had some training. Those two programs that we're working with. And that's me for right
Very good. And Ken?
I did not make the sponsors meeting because I was working, and hopefully I can make this next one. Bad time in October, but I talked with Jean, and she said, you know, the big thing was it looks like that the relationship between Townsend and ODE and Margaret are starting to get a little bit better now. We're on the right track of what's named those fences, or you know, it seems like that ODE wants to work with us a lot more now. So that's a positive note.
Very positive. Very positive. All right, very good. We'll move on to the treasurer's report, Kelsey.
Okay. Everybody just wants to fill out their packet. That's quick information from the current month at the top. I know we give you guys a lot of stuff in there. So.
Love it.
All right, so I just wanted to start with some updates from September. I know we talked at the last board meeting about there were grant funds from fiscal year 20, so quite a ways back, that were going to expire on September 30th. I worked really closely with the IDA contact at the ODE. We had several meetings via Zoom and phone calls, and I was able to put some salaries and benefits expenses from July 20th through August 31st from our special education teachers. These had previously come out of our general fund, so it was a savings for us of about $106,826.22. So that was really helpful. We also spent some further money, again, money that was going to expire anyways, to create sensory rooms for our special education population. We have a lot of different learning settings going on right now with kids being kind of spread out. So creating those sensory rooms specifically for those students, I think it's going to be a really positive thing.
Have those been completed?
No, so we're just starting to get things in. Like I
Okay,
saw downstairs, there's some of the wobbly balance stools,
Uh-huh.
those just came in. But I think we're really excited to start getting them set up. Like Ashley came up with a lot of really cool ideas for
Good.
the rooms.
Maybe
so.
at the next meeting you can give us a tour.
Yeah, that would be great. We also purchased some transition-based instructional materials to support the new transition coordinator position. Last month, I reviewed our AT&T bill for our cell phone plans, and I worked with our area representative just to be more cost-effective with this. There were some lines on there from past employees, not even just employees that just left, but some previously. So by cutting those out, we were able to lower the bill from $2,030.46 in August. That was our August bill. And then the bill I just got in September was $1,579.16. So a little bit under $500 per month of savings. And then the last thing I just want to touch on is that part of the report tonight, I'm going to recommend that we approve the spending plan and appropriations for the year. The total of all of our spending, so this includes what comes out of any of our grants, is projected to be around $4.1 million. I do want to emphasize this is a projection because we don't know exactly what we're going to spend with those ESSER funds. I can pretty on point predict like salaries and benefits that are going to come out of Title I or IDA, but we are kind of adding things here and there with ESSER. We've been adding positions and things like that, so that is more of an estimate when it comes to that. But I'm projecting around $4.1 million total, and our revenue is projected to come in slightly under that. So while we're working extensively to save money through grants, our overall expenses are still projected to be a little bit higher. Now, I do want to touch on too, these grants don't all go away. Like the ESSER money will eventually go away. We will continue to get Title I and IDA money, so it's not as if all of these are going to go away. But I just want to, keep that in mind. We can go ahead and skip past the minutes. August cash reconciliation, if you look toward the other, on the right side toward the bottom, you can see we ended with a total fund balance of around $2.5 million. Does anybody have any questions over the reconciliation? Move on to our disbursement summary.
Back up, you had already explained to us about the 57,000, I just wanted to, about the reduction of the $57,316. That was something that came in your report, the explanation of the monies,
Yeah.
the adjustments to the bank. account.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about some adjustments.
Okay, very good.
For the disbursement summary, I just wanted to point out a couple of those expenses. If you go all the way to the bottom and you go about 5 up, that is our AT&T bill. That was the August expense. I know we talked about it lowering, you won't see that until next month. On the next page, one of the bigger expenses, about halfway down, the 11,185. I thought that might look a little unfamiliar. That's our liability insurance. We approved that with the School of Ohio risk sharing at the July meeting. Does anybody have any questions over the disbursement summary? Next, we have the outstanding disbursements. And if there's no questions over that, I'll go ahead and move on to our monthly spreadsheet.
I just better catch that check. Yeah, $100,000.
Yeah, probably in September, so I'm sure. So for our monthly spreadsheet for our general fund, we did have our casino funding come in. This comes in twice a year. One of the questions Jean asked me, if you look at the top left section, why that percentage of the total was so high. I underestimated, or lowballed, I guess I should say, the casino funding, because one, I wasn't sure exactly how much we would get, but also two, there was a little bit of uncertainty with how our funding was gonna change. We talked last meeting about how I worked with Aaron Rush from the ODE to try to predict how their new formulas were going to affect the funding. We thought we would stay relatively the same, but there might have been some difference. So just to accommodate in case it came out less, I underestimated the casino funding. Other than that, if you look at the bottom right, we had income of $388,037, expenses around $270,347. So we did come in positive around $180,689. This is our most recent foundation payment from the state. This is September's payment. So there's a couple of things that I want to explain for why our funding came in lower. In the right-hand column, the monthly payment, if you go down to the second section under additional aid items, you'll see our facilities funding at around $22,000. So last month it was around $33,000. The reason for it being lower is they reworked their formula for calculating facilities funding, and we knew it was going to go up. So the $33,000 was the new amount of $22,000 plus what we had been short in July. So it was a total combination of those two. So now the amount that you see is what we're going to continue to see. We should continue to see around the $22,000. So that's why that was slightly lower than the August payment. There's also, under the adjustments, there's a new adjustment that we hadn't previously had for $5,804.87. That's money that they're taking back. It was kind of a very complex explanation from our AMIS coordinator, and working with Deanna Faber as well. It's based on what they paid us in June was based on an initial calculation. And then at the end of the fiscal year, at the end of June, there was another calculation, and that calculation indicated that they had slightly overpaid us based on our EMIS numbers.
So they had to do it with graduates that would come out of the system, I think, before the end of the school year. That last time that the data was sent was May 19th or May 20th, and that dictated the June payment. And then, so there's a gap from May 20th to the end of the school year, and now this is like making up, it's an adjustment to make up for that time.
So they are gonna continue to pull that amount monthly, and it'll come out to an annual amount of $58,048.66. So again, that contributes to that lower payment.
And it's not a clawback like previous years there were some clawbacks.
Yeah, it's not based on our FTE review, it's just based on the way the payments were calculated between May and June. Does anybody have any questions over the foundation? Following that, we've got our FTE summary. You can see on the second page, we had a total FTE of 542.66. That stayed consistent for July, August, and September. Following the financial reports, I have a recommendation to approve our fiscal year 22 appropriations and spending plan. Our general fund spending at $2,999,480, with the total of all funds being $4,184,480. At this time, I'd also like to allow for public comments for our ARP IDA funds. This year, we received some additional IDA funding for a total amount of $41,765.67. As of right now, it's budgeted entirely in salaries and benefits in case the need arises to hire another intervention specialist. We'd have to closely monitor our maintenance of effort before knowing that we could pay them through that grant. Our other IDA funds are budgeted in other places. We have them budgeted for supplies such as what we just purchased for the sensory rooms and things like that. So these funds I just kept to salaries and benefits. So I wanted to allow for any public comment on that.
How long does that period of public comment stay open?
It's just work.
Yeah. It's just
Okay,
like-
just, okay. Right, and on our agenda, if you missed those numbers that Kelsey was going through, she has that recommendation for appropriation and spending plan on our agenda.
Yeah.
So it's there, yeah, I know.
Only numbers.
Very good. So in looking at that, do you have any questions for Kelsey?
No.
All right, is there a motion to approve action items A through E, which includes the recommendations that Kelsey just mentioned about the spending plan, as well as any open comments for idea funds? Moved by Dora, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Kent. We'll have the roll, please.
Mrs. Grant,
Yes.
Mr. Edwards,
Yes.
Mr. Palumbo,
Yes.
Mrs. Solis, Mrs. Smith.
Yes. Thank you very much. Very good. All right, we'll move on now to the superintendent's report and our recommendations.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Smith. To begin with, I have a few informational items I'd like to go through with you. First of all, we have received our report from the 2021 FTE review. I included that report in your folder this evening. Overall, the Ohio Department of Education is very pleased with the operation and with their audit of our attendance. There's just one action plan that we have, and that is to make sure that we are withdrawing students who hit the 72-hour consecutive mark in a timely fashion. We have strived to do that in the past, but we're going to really focus in on that to make sure that we do that on a consistent basis this year. So we are in the process of finishing up a draft to our response for that action plan. The only other piece that they wanted confirmation on was that we were no longer going to be using paper-based time logs this year to track attendance for our students, and that is already in action. So we are confirming that. The Department of Education is very pleased by that, the discontinuation of the student time logs, and overall their feedback here in the report was very positive. And to this point, we are not aware of any clawback with our FTE review this year. Any questions on the FTE reviews?
When does this have to be done by?
date?
So we have
Timeline?
30 days to submit our action plan for that 72-hour rule item, and that is from September 7th. My hope is to have it done this week so that that's taken care of. Actually, being reviewed right now by Dickinson Wright. The next informational item that I have for you is a review of our current enrollment data. In your folder, I have shared a breakdown of our enrollment as of today by school district where the student resides. And you can see here that we have a total of 567 students as of today. And that went down a little bit because yesterday we did for the first time draw some students who did hit that 72 consecutive hour mark, which I mentioned a few minutes ago. So we did see a reduction in our student enrollment yesterday. We have, of those 567 students, only 11 of those students are the grandfathered students outside the 6 county radius. You can see where those students come from there on that report. Any questions on our student enrollment?
Just commendation. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's great.
So currently, the school year's off to a fantastic start. We're at the middle here of week 4 now, and so far we've been averaging 130 students in the building per day. And I can tell you from years past, our high that I can remember of all time was right around 125. And that was the first day of school, maybe 3-4 years ago. So this average of 130 is phenomenal. We hope to see this continue to increase over time. The average, or excuse me, the high in one day is 184 students in the building. So it's great. Students are coming in. Students are making good progress. The environment has been fantastic, and I give our staff a lot of credit with that. They've done a fantastic job of facilitating the classroom environment and making sure that our students have good focus and are here with a purpose. So credit goes to our staff for a great start to the school year. Any questions on the start of school?
I guess just how with the increase of students, I know the students are going to various locations. How is the assignment of that going? Because that was a concern when we developed the blended learning plan as to how we get students to the right place at the right time.
Yeah, it's been going pretty well. When students come in, we ask if they check in with their teacher, and then their teacher and then confirm what location they should be in, depending on which subject matter they're working on that day. So right now we have downstairs an English lab, English teacher and tutor in there. We have the social studies room. We have upstairs, we have the math and science labs. We got computers available for students in addition to the teachers to assist them. And actually this week we decided to add a 5th lab because we just had students kind of spread all out. We were filling in all the side labs, the classrooms down there, teacher offices, and we felt that it was better in the class environment for as many students as we can to have them work in that classroom environment. With some of the students will have like a small group as needed, but we've started using the computer lab upstairs as a 5th lab now. So that's our elective lab / overflow lab, and we will also be using that for testing as well. So STAR testing is going to be starting here very soon. We've had a slight pause because our testing coordinator is going to be on leave here for a while. So we've been working the past couple of weeks at finding a substitute for her. And we're going to get testing that probably next week for STAR testing. So we're utilizing that space. We're utilizing all the areas of the building right now. On a given day, you'll come in a special ed hallway, we'll have 1 or 2 students in those rooms for those who need that smaller group environment, as well as some downstairs as well with teachers in their offices.
Special ed home too, so we're gonna put some of those sensors. For sure, the conference room, I think it's gonna be one of them.
Do you have evidence of, is there any way to measure how the students are doing academically with the change in how we're going about providing instruction?
So there are reports in BLA that we can pull that show completed
Right, right, to do that. Because I think that will be interesting over time to see if that changes. We don't have a means to compare it from past, but if we can establish what data we really need to be collecting and noting, so that we can show that improvement in learning, that would be good.
I think just the comment, the STAR testing this year will be a good indicator too, because they'll take it in the fall, and then they'll have this entire year where they're in that classroom setting for the first time really, and we'll get to see how the scores improve in the spring, so I think that'll be interesting as well.
And the end course scores too, but if we take those throughout the school year, it'd be interesting to compare those, because we can compare those to previous year's data. I really anticipate seeing an increase with those, because the focus, the learning environment right now is better than it's ever been. And I'm excited, the staff I think is excited, and hopefully that shows with our test results as well.
With all the kids from all the different schools. And I know that we've had problems in the past, that was before we required having this many students in the building. Has there been any problems with like students not getting along, disrespecting each other or anything like that? If so, do we have like a place where we, like, you have a room, like I know we went to school, there's ISI, you have trouble with the principal suspension, is there any kind of room for discipline, or how do you handle discipline when someone's on board?
So we've had some minor issues here and there, and we've had one that I would call a little more significant discipline-wise. As a whole, though, when I look at the quantity of discipline that we've had this school year, factoring in the volume of students, in comparison to years past, the discipline is definitely less in that comparison. When we have a discipline issue, David, Tara, and Ashley are handling the discipline, and we take it on a case-by-case basis, and each situation is unique, and the discipline that goes along with each situation is dependent on that student, that situation, whether or not there are IPs and things like that factor in the equation as well. So we really try to take an approach with our discipline of making it a learning experience for students, but at the same time, there's times where additional consequences are necessary as well. But in terms of like an ISI, we don't decide.
So you said that everything's feeling really good. It's exciting. We're a month into the school year. Do you feel that there's a lot of enthusiasm and everybody's excited? Can you maintain that? Like, have you talked with the staff and talked about the things that are working? Like, are you guys continually giving each other feedback so you can so maintaining this, right? Because we just talked about winter months, and once things kind of get ugly outside or whatever, the mood kind of changes a little bit, So my question is this going to be? Are you going to be able to keep this up, for the year? Do you have a plan for that?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, we've met frequently. We've had the last 2 weeks, we've had a staff meeting, and at those meetings, we've taken feedback from staff. We've encouraged them to give us feedback so that we can continue to take what right now is a good model and continue to improve it to make it a great model, make it as best as we can. And we've really stressed that this is not just administration. This is a we thing. We put this model together going back to last spring, where we as a team had subcommittees and we put this blended model together, and we took everybody's feedback to do that. And we were going to continue with that process where everybody is a stakeholder in the model that we have, and we just want to keep making it better and better as we go along. And I think when you give staff that ownership, right? That ownership, I think that goes a long way with the staff morale.
You got me excited.
Yeah.
I can see you smiling. I took my body language, and I'm ready to come to school.
Right, is there an issue about masks being worn? Is that an issue or anything?
So right now, I know last month we had passed a resolution where our policy was that we would strongly recommend masks. We did, after a week or so, we did ask staff to wear them instead of making more of a recommended. And that's schools across Erie County did that because what schools were seeing was that teachers were maybe not sick, but they were being quarantined quarantine because they were in close contact with others. And schools were having a hard time staying open because they were short-handed on staff and there weren't substitutes out there. And that's when I made the decision that, and I asked for input on that as well. That I think it'd be wise for staff to wear them so that we can keep staff in the building and stay open and function. Now, for students, we still have a strongly recommended policy. We're continuing to monitor COVID data locally and also statewide. And if necessary, here down the road, we could make that change to requirement for students. But at this time, it's strongly recommended. I would say that about maybe 20% of the students are wearing a mask right now by choice.
Do we have vaccinations available to students through our school nurse?
They could probably schedule with the health department. We have not scheduled anything as a school.
Okay.
But that's something we could consider looking at, maybe having a day where those who wish to take advantage of that could. Or maybe for like a Saturday or something.
Are there any other questions for Ryan before he moves into new business?
I guess I did have one additional item.
Sure.
Ashley had been working on a special ed camp here doing math and reading, and she got notification today that all the documents submitted were sufficient and that was resolved.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so she's been working hard on that, so a lot of credit to Ashley for that for us. Okay, moving on to new business. We have items A through F here. Currently, they are set up to vote on all together, but if anyone would like to split any of those apart, you can definitely do that. Item A is a recommendation to approve the award of high school diplomas to the following students upon successful completion of the graduation requirements as set forth by the state of Ohio. We have small groups all read their names off here. Timothy Adcock, Tyler Adcock, Caleb Roski, Brianna Crosser, Whitney Crosser, Phoebe Earhart, Zachary Good, Autumn Otney, Nathan Salzar, Kelsey Worrell, and Riley Young. Item B is a recommendation to approve Cindy Orshowski as a full-time position for the 2021-2022 school year as food services administrative assistant at a salary of $36,360, and to authorize the treasurer to execute the necessary contracts to effectuate her employment. Contract will be 202 days with a start date of September 7th of 2021. So this is retroactive. One of the things that we had passed back in July, I believe, was the ability for the superintendent to hire a physician if there's a need. And with us switching over to the food program here, being under Townsend, which is going to happen right around October 1st or so, we do need to have somebody in this position to not only assist Bob with making her food, but also she's going to be doing a lot of stuff like Sarah Ransom does at Mark Record with tracking the paperwork and seeing to reporting to the state all the data and paperwork that goes with that. She will also probably help some with compliance issues. We have to complete a lot of issues with Mark Record in terms of the sponsor compliance. She's going to assist. Item C is a recommendation to approve Lyle Faulkner for a part-time position of substitute testing coordinator at an hourly rate of $35 per hour, up to 28 hours per week, as needed, and to authorize the treasurer to execute the necessary contracts to effectuate his employment. Item D is a recommendation to approve Marty Hallett.
Ryan, just back up, because I think Mr. Faulkner has an impressive background. You
Sure.
want to give people the background.
Sure. Yeah, so we had a few candidates in the position we interviewed, and Lyle comes to us. He's retired from Bellevue City Schools. He is a previously an intervention specialist and also a CPI teacher. His son David followed in his footsteps and has both of those certifications. And so Lyle, we think Lyle's going to do a nice job of filling in while Devin is out. Questions on item C? Okay, recommendation D, is a recommendation to approve Marnie Samansky as RESA coordinator for the 2021-22 school year at an amount of $1,500. In the past, we had, in previous years, Marnie had $2,000. However, in talking to her, we only have one teacher this year in RESA, and from my conversations with her, Margaret pays her $1,500 to be their coordinator. So she agreed to come in at the same amount of $1,500 for us. Item E is a recommendation to approve Ashley Hermes as RESA mentor for the 2021-22 school year at an amount of $1,000. And the teacher that we have in RESA is Johanna Kioski, who is our new intervention specialist, and she's in year 1 of RESA. And then finally, recommendation F is an item that we had discussion last month about. Recommendation to enter a contract with Reach Success for the position of success coordinator from October 1st of 2021 through June 20th of 2022. This would be a position that is works for us 20 hours a week, and this is going to help us, if approved, this would help us to really focus on that goal that we had of helping our students to be more college career ready, especially the career workforce piece, helping them to be able to pursue those options that are in their interest in terms of careers. That being said, discussion.
If you recall, when we talked about the Reach Success, one of the things that we wanted was that there was any negotiating possible, which was not the case. Ryan would provide us that information on the weekly update. We also talked with them about, you'll notice that the effective date is going to be from October through June. So we will have that available to us. I'm trying to think if there were other issues that we had regarding this. We were hoping to learn from this service that we're purchasing with the possibility of maybe exploring that ourselves down the road. But I don't know if anybody went on the website, but if you do go on the website of Reach for Success, there's an impressive listing of services that are available to our students. Are there any questions or comments? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve action items A through F of the superintendent's report? Moved by Dora, second. Seconded by Jackie. We'll have the roll, please.
Mrs. Grant,
Yes.
Mrs. Salee,
Yes.
Mr. Edwards,
Yes.
Mr. Paloma,
Yes.
Yes. I have no further items of business. Is there anything else that needs to come before the board? Hearing, if there are none, then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Kent, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Israel. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we are adjourned. 7:47, okay. Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Take care, guys.
Thank you,